Okay, so folks, just finished up with how to FTP. Let's do how to make our home page. Now I'm going to cancel this for a second. Once you've got your site set up and you know where your server's going to be, you know where your files are going to be on your local hard drive, and so you want to watch that video if you've not seen it yet. But once you got all that going, and you got a big empty folder here with nothing in it yet, you've not built anything, then you're typically going to go to File and you're going to do a new HTML document. Like I say, you could use templates, but I'm just going to do it the old-fashioned way because we need to learn how to do it the right way. I just hit HTML. Hopefully you saw that. Just did File, New, and I hit on HTML. I'll cancel this time. So now I got this big blank page and it's nothing. And I'm going to call it Tony Lee Glenn homepage. Okay, so there's nothing on this page. This is the title. This is actually very important. Google and the search engines look at this title up here. So you want to always fill this in. Now we've not even titled the page up here. See, it says untitled. I'm going to go ahead and say File, Save. And since I already have a home page and I don't want to copy over it, I'm going to call this Index 2. You will not do that. You will call this Index. Okay, so I'm going to call it Index 2. INDEX. -2. So don't follow my instruction and put index 2. Just realize that's the reason I've put index 2 is I don't want to copy over my other index file. So I'm going to say save. So now this would ordinarily be my index.html, no -2 there. And so how am I going to get stuff on the page? Well, it's very simple. We're going to say insert. You're going to go up to insert and you're going to pick a div. The div, the reason it's at the very top is it's the most used way to get data in a format on the page. And Dreamweaver uses a thing called cascading style sheets, and I swear it's a scary sounding word. Is it cascading style sheets? It sounds sinister. It sounds like it'd be hard. It's really pretty simple, and I'll show you. Now, these depending on whether you've got CS6, CS5, CS4, CC. This is CC. CC started a new thing down here where you're going to have this cascading style sheets. That's what that CSS stands for. Believe me, folks, this is not brain surgery. There's some tricky little weirdness that can happen here if you're brand new to it, but we'll go ahead and get started. We're going to insert a div, and this div is going to have a style. Now, styles, why are they called classes instead of styles? I don't know. It's probably the more accurate, but this is style is all it is. A class is a style, and usually it starts with a dot. Now, maybe it tells you this in the manuals. I don't know. I'm just going to tell you because I've just been doing this for a long time. So I'm going to call this dot. And most people will do a thing called a container, C-O-N-T-A-I-N-E-R. There's nothing magic about this. You could call it anything you want to. Most people call it container. It's just usually it's the big old square that everything else goes inside, and it all kind of keeps it tucked together, okay? So I'm going to call this C-O-N-T-A-I-N-E-R just to help me remember. This is the ID of it. This is just the ID for this class. And you're going to always, most of the time, click on New CSS Rule, New Cascading Style Sheet Rule. And the rule is going to be, it's going to tell you, this is where you're going to, what it says choose a name for your selector. It usually starts with a hash there. And Dreamweaver really nicely does this for you. So far, no big no-brainer. It makes it everything for you. It does what you're supposed to do. You don't have to know how to do it. Just follow the OKs. And I hit OK. Now, things start to get interesting. This is where you decide what happens inside that big box. Now, I'm going to do this I'm not going to pick a type or font or anything yet because this box is just a container. Now, if I wanted to, right now, I could tell anything that's going to go inside this container. I could pick what font I want it to be. I could pick what the font size would be, what the color of the fonts would be, all these various different things. I'm not going to do that because this is just a big old box to hold everything. So I'm going to go, one thing I am going to do, I'm going to go to box. Now, there's different things. You can flip through these things. And you can see all these different things that cascading style sheets will let you do. Some of it's not going to make sense to you, but I will go back and at some point we'll work on all this and I'll show you what all these various different things mean. We're just getting started now. I'm going to go to box. And I'm going to decide maybe I want my website to be 1,000 pixels wide. That seems to be a pretty moderate. Some people go 960, some people go 1,080. I don't know, there's all kinds of weird sizes people use. 1,000's not bad. So I'm going to say 1,000 pixels wide. Most people have monitors that are that big. I'm not even going to put a height in it right now. It's not that important. And but the one thing that is important is like I like to have my websites where they flow in the middle of the screen. If you look at various websites, sometimes they all justify over here to the left, and then you got big old bunch of blank space over here usually on them. I like mine just to flow right dead in the middle, so that no matter how wide you pull these, your browser open and closed, it sits in the middle. So the way you do that is you go here where the margin is, and instead of hitting same for all, you're going to click that. And you're going to leave the top alone, probably bottom alone. You're going to go right, and you're going to go auto, and left, and auto. So I did a right and left auto. Now, what's going to happen is it's going to put a 1,000 pixel box that has auto size this way and auto size this way. And you'll see what happens. I'll go ahead and say OK. And I'm going to say OK again. And all of a sudden, you got this little box that shows here. And it says content for container goes here. All this is this text is just a placeholder there so you can see where your div is, really. Because if I take that out of there, it scrunches up so little you can't even see it. So, but now watch what happens here. Let's do this. Let's do it appears a little button where you can preview what you've done. And so here, you know what? This will make this a little easier to do. Over here is where, let's see, all sources, go container, down here at selectors. Here's where my container is, and here you can see, this is where I was saying this is different in CC. You got this whole box down here that shows you all your stuff after you've already laid it out. So it knows I've done 1,000 pixel, and it knows that it's got an auto margin. So you can go back here and change this if you want to. You can go in here and take, say, left margin of 10 or whatever, and then it'll come over here and it'll give you 10 pixels to the side. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to go down, I'm going to go to where my background is. I should have done this anyway, since we're doing just some testing. Here's the background of this div here, this box. And so I'm going to go ahead and give it a color because I want to be able to see this div. So let's just kind of, I can just pick any old round. Let's make it pink. What the heck? I don't remember. It's kind of a pinkish look here. So there we go. I've picked that color, and now that thing is pink. But the reason I did that is just so we can get a visual on what's going on. I'm going to save the file. I'm going to do a Control-S to save. So I hit Control. You can go up here and say File, Save. Control-S does it. See it. Control-S is a good one to learn. Save often. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to click this little button here. It's going to let me preview this. So I'm going to preview it in Google Chrome. Now you didn't see anything happen because I had this other thing off screen here. But now I'm going to pull it over. And now look, here it is. It's previewed just like it would be on the web. Now look, the reason I did the auto, see that? Doesn't matter how wide I spread that out, that thing sits in the center. And that's kind of what I like. So I'm going to kind of pull this aside for now. We'll do some more previewing in a minute. So now what goes inside this thing? Well, that's where you decide. And this is where it's good for you to maybe sketch your website out ahead of time. But I'll tell you how I do it. And this, once again, we'll just kind of go through my ways. First of all, I'm going to delete this. And so now I've got a div with nothing inside it. And see how skinny it got all of a sudden? Well, I'm going to insert another div. And I'm going to insert one that's going to be class of call. I'm going to call it dot header. And I want to put my header up here, right? So I'm going to call it header. And I'm going to say new CSS rule again, header, and cool. Let's leave it do that. So it's kind of cruising through this now. And once again, here I can go ahead and change my background. Let's give this the background color. Let's make her header, I don't know, something like green here. Okay, so here we got this kind of pale green. We'll make that her header. So I got a color for it, but there's nothing there yet. I'm going to go back to box again. And I'm going to say width of 1,000 again, because I want it to go all the way across the top of the page. And this time I am going to set a height. I'm going to guess that my header might want to be, I don't know, 120 pixels tall. Okay? So I'm going to say, I don't have to do the margin or anything now because it's going to sit inside this div up here. So I'm going to say OK. Boom. And OK again. And presto. Now we've got this header. It's this green, and if I want to put a picture inside this, I'll, by gosh darn, do it. So we'll see what goes there here just in a minute. Now, I've got this header. Now, here's where you might want to slip into code. Now, listen, don't be afraid of code. Don't fear the code, folks. I mean, I worked for years and was kind of afraid of the code, and worked a whole lot in Design View. But sometimes you got to click on this little code button here. So far, we've been inside of Design. That just shows us on screen sort of representation of what we got. I'm going to click on Code, and so here I can see this where this content for this goes, and you can see I'm inside the header. How do you know that? Because you got in this div with a class that equals header. So this is our style. Our style is called header. Our ID's header. Here's where the content goes. So I could put a picture in there. I'm not going to do that just yet. Now what you got down here, you got this little div thing, right? Well, this corresponds to the beginning of your container head. See up here, you got your body, you got the head, and up here between this little head here and this little head here is where all your styles and mess goes, your meta tags and stuff like that. We'll talk about that later. That's stuff that, once again, search engines sometimes use, sometimes don't. Depends on which search engines you're talking about. Definitely, well, certain things will be up here or need to be up here. But these pink things are the styles we set up. We set the container style, we set up the header style. So, but at any rate, then you got the body down here, and the body is where your content goes. This is where almost everything that people will see goes. This stuff up here people don't usually see. So you got the HTML that opens this thing up. This is your document type up here. It's HTML. It defines it for the web. You got HTML here, HTML here. And you got head here and head down here, and your styles and mess go in here. Here's where your content goes, right between the body and the body, and you end up with the HTML. Well, we've got this. This is the end of our div here for our container. You don't know that. Sometimes it'd be cool to put a little marker in there. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to go here to the end of this. I'm going to hit enter again. And what I want to do, I want to put a navigation bar in here. So I'm going to say insert another div. And this one we're going to call class.navigation. Once again, you can call it anything you want to. You can call it Fred or Ralph. It really matters not. I'm going to here call it navigation. All that matters is that you know what you want there. I naturally name it navigation. So here we go, navigation, okay. So I know that I've got my 120 pixel top thing, my header that's going to go in there. I've not built it yet, but I'm just making holes for it. And now I know I want navigation. So now here's where I might want to pick a font family up, because I know it's going to be nothing but text here probably. And I can do all kinds of different things. So I'll make a very simple navigation thing. So I'm going to pick something like Gotham, Helvetica Neue, Helvetica Arial Sans Serif. That's kind of a good one to use. It's very plain and austere, but it's stylish, and you'll see a lot of this on the web. So I'm going to pick a font size, I don't know, 16, I don't know, maybe 14. 14, and you can go 15 if you want. Let's just, for fun, for kicks, let's do 15. And I'm not going to make it heavy or anything right now. I can go here, font weight, and I can make it bold. We can do that later, though. We can go down here when we make our style, we can go and change things we want to. So let's go to background. So I'm color coding these things just so we can see them for now. We'll take these weird colors away later. So now I'm going to let's pick me a blue or something here, kind of a purplish look. And so we'll know this is going to be this bluish weird. These are little hex 6-digit codes here that define color on the web. You don't have to know what they mean yet, but you'll be learning about these. You'll use them in Photoshop and stuff. They have RGB equivalents, red, green, blue. You don't have to know all that just yet. That gets into the science of color. You'll learn it eventually. It'll just kind of something you wake up one morning. Hey, I know what RGB and hexadecimal colors and stuff like that are, but you don't have to worry about that now. We're going to the box again, though. And once again, we've got 1,000 pixel wide, so I'm going to go 1,000 again. Now, there's different ways we could do our navigation. It could hang down onto the left-hand side. Once again, it matters not. I'm just going to go ahead and tell it that it's going to be, width of 1,000 and a height, let's say 40 pixels maybe, that we'll have in there. Now, there's a thing we might do called padding here in a minute. I'm not going to do it just yet. We'll figure this out when we start to put our text in here. So right now, all we've done, we put some type rules, we put a background color, and we've made our box to 1,000 pixels wide. So I'm going to say OK. Now look, it puts it in here. I'm going to say OK again. Here it is. And it's saying that the contents for that go there. But you know what? We've not even seen it, but let's see if it happens. Let's go up under design over here and look. Well, there you go. There it is. We've got the green top. This is going to be our header. We've got our navigation. It's going to go there. And we're going to replace this text later with some real navigation. But let's just keep building the rest of our site structure for right now. So we know we're going to have a body that's got some stuff in it. I don't know if we want it to be 1 column or 2 column. We could make it 2 column. We might have a sidebar that goes down here that shows, I don't know, maybe you could put links in, or maybe you could put some pictures, maybe you could put some, I don't know, some blog postings or something, and then you have this whole big body over here that has stuff in it. So now we're going to do our first div that's not exactly 1,000 pixels wide. I'm going to go back into the code again for a second. Now, before I do that, let me go back here and let me show you something. let's say you want to, let's say you've got a bunch of stuff on this page, a bunch of divs, and you want to see just what's in this navigation. And what you can do, you can hit Control. Now watch me say this and it won't work. You hit Control, and then you should be able to click on this div. Let's see. Click on the other div. There we go. I'm hitting on the. This is odd. Okay, well, I'm gonna click inside here. Okay, so what you can do, you can click inside and look down here. It gives you on the bottom your div. So you can select your stuff this way. If you want to click inside of this div up here, you know, the header, and you want to see where the header is in the code, you can click on this, and it highlights it, and you can go in here, and there it goes. It highlights and it shows you where your code is. So once again, I can go back to design if I want to see where this one is, what's inside this div here. I can look down here, and here it shows me the last thing that shows here is the div. And look, it's showing you that you got the body and you got the container, and it's showing you that this is inside this. So you got this, and this is inside it, and this is inside it, right? So if you wanted to see that, you click on this, and then you go to your code, and it's going to show you that code. That's just a nice little tip. It's a good thing for you to know as you're working through, because from time to time you will have to go into that code. Okay, so we are going to, might as well go back to this for a minute, design. I got this bottom div highlighted here, right? Code, I'm going to go to code. So now I can see that's it. Well, I want one to go after it. And I actually decided, as we were talking there a while ago, that I'd like to have a left bar and a right bar. So I'm going to say insert div again. We're going to call this left. I'll call it left body, dot. Remember, I always put dot, left dash body. You always use dashes or underscores. Okay, that's a good little tip. Always remember dot before it, and then maybe if you want to separate it, I could call it left body without a dash. But I like to use dashes or underscores. That works. That's just good rule of thumb. It's good style, good etiquette. And we'll call it left dash body. We're going to create our new CSS rule. And, you know, if you don't know what pixels and stuff are, you know, you're going to learn what they are. I happen to know about what I'm looking for. I'm going to hit OK on this because I don't mind that it calls it that. And I'm going to make this, I'm going to give this the background color again. You know what, I might as well put some type in it again. I'll go ahead and pick that Gotham Helvetica Neue again. I might make this 14 points, a little smaller than the navigation, and I might go to the background and give it another color that we've not used yet, maybe an orange. How would that be? That'd be kind of cool. Peach. Okay, and then I'm going to go to box. And this time, we're not going to go the full 1,000 pixels. Darn it, we're going to go 200 pixels. 200. Yeah, let's do 250. 250. And see where this thing says float here? We're going to float this baby left. Now what that means is we want that to go over here to the left-hand side. We're telling it to float over to the left. And margin, I'm not going to put a margin or anything. Well, once again, we can go back, and I'm going to tell you what all this stuff is. We're just be patient and hang with me, folks. So now we're going to have that. For time being, I started to give it a height, but I think I'm not going to. Let's just leave it. If you leave it like that, it can automatically set its own height. So I'm going to say OK. And so I've put this new one in here. I'll say OK again. And let's take a look. You can see the setup for it. Let's click on design again. Now we see we've got a left copy over here of a whole. Now we want a main part of our body or most of our text to be over here in this one, right? So at this point, we can click here, and I see you can do it from inside the code, or you can do it here. Sometimes for me, it's easier doing it inside the code and better doing it inside the code. So I'm down here. I see them at the back side of this. So I'm going to do it another return here. I'm going to insert another div. I know I'm going slow, but I want you to really get this idea here, the idea of what we're doing. And we'll call this one main body. Again, you can call it anything you want to. main-body. New CSS rule. We've got a main body. We'll say, okay, we know we use 250 pixels. Let's go ahead and give this once again type, font, family. Crap, we can go ahead and do that here. Let's give it a Gotham Helvetica Neue again. I'm going to go back to the whole 15-point thing again here. You know, now I might give it a line height. Maybe it'd be better off waiting to show you that later, though. That's kind of cool. You can put space, how much space is going to be between the lines. Vertically, you know, like how much space goes in between these lines here. It's typically called leading if you're doing that with InDesign or Microsoft Word or Publisher or whatever like that. But let's go ahead and give this thing a background color again, because we're just doing background colors and it helps us see things. I'm going to pick a kind of a, maybe a, yeah, let's go pick some kind of something in here, teal maybe. There we go. Okay, so I got a color. Once again, these colors are all temporary. They're just showing our zones for now. You don't even have to do that, but boy, it makes it easier visually for you to be able to see. And you can see you could put a background image behind all that, but you don't want to make it hard for people to read. That's why I typically use black and use white text on it, or use white pages with black text on it. That's the best rule of thumb for what looks good. We're going to go to our box again. And this time our width is going to be, what is it going to be? It's going to be 750, right? 1,000 minus 250 is 750. Okay. And this one will float right. Or it could still float. You know, let's just float it right. Let's see if this works. Hopefully I'm telling you guys right here. We'll say OK. And OK again. We'll go to our design. Let's look. And yeah, it's looking pretty good. Now you see we've got this little space over here. There's nothing underneath this. We didn't give it a height or anything. So that's all right. We still want to get a footer now, though, that goes underneath all this. You know, where you can put your address or phone number or whatever else. So I'm going to go back up into the code again, and we're going to go after this one, and we're going to do another div. Insert div, and it's going to be the footer. .footer. I'll call it footer. Footer. New CSS rule, footer it is. Okay. And once again, let's give it a background color of something here, something like this. I don't know, fuchsia or something like that. Okay. And then close that. And then let's go to our type. Let's pick something different for the footer. Let's pick Gill Sands, something like that. Yeah, let's give it a shot. See what it looks like. I don't even know what it's going to look like. Usually you make these things smaller at the bottom. I'm going to say 11 points. And then I'm going to go to box, and then I'm going to make it once again 1,000 pixels wide. I think it needs to stretch the whole bottom. And it's going to float left again. That way we'll definitely tuck back up under the other box. I'll show you what happens here in a minute. I'll say OK and OK. Yeah, OK. Let's see what we got. Design. And there we go. Now you see the reason I did that float left is sometimes if you don't do that, then the fact that this doesn't have enough content in it will make that div kind of try to jump into a funny place. So this bottom one, it's contained inside this container, and you'll see. Just try it when you do your footer. Particularly if you do a 2-column, you want to probably float it left. And some people say there's better ways to do that, Tony. Well, that's fine. You're right. There's always multiple ways to do things. That's the way it's kind of worked for me over the years. So now we've got this structure with absolutely nothing in it. We know we want pictures and things to go here. One of the things I don't like with a website, I don't like this little extra space it puts in up here at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a tip here. If you want to go down to page properties and tell it here where your top margin is 0, I like to do this. Now watch this little white thing up here disappear when I say OK. Boom. I like my header to come all the way to the top. I say File, Save again. And now it comes to getting some content in these. And so I'm going to open up Photoshop.